Welcome back to our discussion about adding and subtracting rational expressions. In this video, we're going to tackle how do you add and subtract rational expressions if they don't have the same denominator, if their denominators are different. So in other words, we're going to try to add some things that are not like terms. Okay. Do you remember what we did? When we had fractions that weren't the same? Like 2/5 plus 1/3. Do you remember what we did with those? We took and created something the same. We looked at those denominators and we said to ourselves, self, what could I make the fifths and the thirds into that then I could combine together? And do you remember we did something like this? We took the 5 and multiplied it by 3, but we would have to do it in the top and the bottom. We took the 3 and multiplied it by the 5. Okay, because when we did that, we ended up with denominators that were the same. So we ended up with, 6/15 plus 5/15. And now I can just do what I did before, and that's just adding the numerator plus the numerator, and we ended up with 11/15. Okay, so when we're dealing with rational expressions, the same is true. We just want to find a denominator that's the same. So those steps that we had for adding and subtracting when we have the same the same denominator, we had 3 steps. Add or subtract the numerators, leave the denominators alone, and then simplify the result. These just become steps 2, 3, and 4. And the first step becomes create common denominators. And you can always do that by multiplying by the denominator of the other rational expression. That's always going to give you something good, okay? Because it's going to be A times B in one and B times A in the other. So no big deal. Okay, so if I'm looking at this example, I've got 3 divided by x plus 1 minus 5 divided by x minus 1. Okay, different denominators. But not so much when I multiply this one by x plus 1 and this one by x minus 1. Okay, because then both of those fractions or rational expressions are going to have a denominator of x minus 1 times x plus 1. All right, so that's what we're going to do. So let's go ahead and do this. Now we're not going to multiply this out. We're just going to leave this as x minus 1 times x plus 1. But we are going to multiply the top out so we can actually combine it with the second piece. Okay, so let's say that this is going to be 3 times x minus 1 minus 5 times x plus 1. All right, and this is our numerator, and that's all going to be over x minus 1 times x plus 1. Okay, now we're going to take that and clean up the numerator. We're going to distribute those coefficients through and combine our like terms. Okay, so we're going to end up with 3x minus 3 minus 5x minus 5 all over x plus 1 times x minus 1. All right, now combine some like terms. All right, so I've got 3x minus 5x. I think that is the same as negative 2x. And I've got negative 3 minus 5. Ooh, I'm going to tilt you down. Negative 3 minus 5 is going to be negative 8. And that's going to be all over x plus 1 times x minus 1. Now I want to double check and make sure that this does not factor into something that can be divided out. I notice that there's a negative 2 and a negative 8 here. So if I factor out a negative 2, I'm going to have x plus 4, and that's not going to divide out anything here. And so that tells me that this is going to be my final answer. this negative 2x minus 8 divided by x plus 1 times x minus 1. And you could go ahead and multiply that out too and say that that's x squared minus 1. All right, we're almost done with this topic. The last video is going to be how do you simplify complex fractions. All that means is a fraction within a fraction. I'll see you then.